Now, Keir Starmer has pledged to expand the nanny state and introduce supervised toothbrushing for children in our schools. British children are now shorter, fatter and unhappier than other countries, and the #1 reason young children go to hospital is to pull out their rotten teeth. Starmer's state-sanctioned dentistry might save a few cavities, but what's next for our ever-enlarging establishment? A quango to make sure we're conditioning our hair, uniformed inspectors checking our deodorant, Ofcom powers extended to make sure we're wiping our bums properly, with state-sanctioned bum wipers knocking on doors to wipe them for us. And as soon as the state starts doing something for people, they lose the ability to do it themselves. So if we ever actually get a Conservative government, we haven't had one for a long time, and they roll back the bum wiping programme, people will moan that their bums are now dirty and smelly and make a crunching noise when they sit down. This is austerity. People are literally dying, they're going to tweet. Gary Lineker will say that this is just like Nazi Germany because they didn't wipe people's bums either. Cross-channel migrants will post TikToks of themselves counting their cash in state-provided 4-star hotels, while a British civil servant dabs the dingleberries off their bottom with a silken towel. You think I'm exaggerating? I'm not. Scotland's progressive government shows where state intrusion can lead. They tried to introduce the named person scheme, which would make children the responsibility of the state rather than their parents. It was branded a snooper's charter, giving the SNP the power to spy on and break up the families of political dissidents, and it was thankfully repealed. And just this week, Humza Yousaf's floundering government announced plans to jail parents for up to 7 years if they question their child's gender transition, even if the parents believe that they're acting in their child's best interest. But history has shown us that parents are always the best advocates for their own children, not blue-haired bureaucrats beholden to radical communist ideologies like Scottish politician Maggie Chapman. I don't want these people within a mile of my kids, never mind legally responsible for them. I'd prefer the SNP to do something to tackle the drug addiction that blights Scotland. 1,400 babies were born addicted to drugs in Scotland in the last few years. There's no point in making sure children brush their teeth if they're just going to lose them to drug addiction anyway. And the nanny state backfires. During lockdown, the government tried to coerce us to get vaccinated, with all the subtlety of Bill Cosby trying to get a model to drink her gin and tonic. This made people suspicious of vaccines, so uptake of all vaccines, even the good ones, has plummeted, and cases of measles have tripled. Starmer wants to tackle this with home visits for vaccinations, but the more the state pushes, the more people push back. He also wants to introduce breakfast clubs for every primary school, a 9 p.m. watershed for junk food adverts, and a ban on vape adverts aimed at children. And he thinks it's the government's fault that British children are suffering. Keir said, frankly, if this was a parent that treated children this badly as the UK government, they'd probably be charged with neglect. But the government isn't our parents. Keir is making the mistake of thinking that the solution to bad government is more government. You can't fix bad parenting with a toothbrush. It's just papering over the cracks of a broken society. Working people have seen their wages eroded by mass migration and globalisation. They can't afford to buy a home. Critical race theory and destructive gender ideologies are pushed on their kids. Degeneracy and self-harm is celebrated. China is allowed to corrupt kids in this country via the digital fentanyl of TikTok. We've had decades of increasing government power. This chart shows how the size of the state has increased relentlessly in Britain and other Western countries. How about we try rolling it back? If we really want British children to have better outcomes, we need to fix British society, promote and celebrate the family values and classic liberal values that Great Britain was built on.